Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Uh,
very much. Thank you.
Dr. Praveen, I have read in newspapers and magazines that cardiovascular diseases are very common in the young generation. I was wondering if stress or nervousness is one of the reasons for this same. What do you think, sir? Could you please elaborate so that the students of my age who are listening to us right now could know the cause of the disorder?
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me in this platform to narrate some of the useful inputs. First of all, as yesterday was World Heart Day, so we plan to discuss something related to some cardiac problems or some nervous problem whatsoever illness is there. So basically, for your age group, this childhood or adolescence age group, this age group nowadays is very, very important because this age group is vulnerable to future cardiac risk factors. One of the most important thing is obesity because most of the times we have also seen in our clinical practice because the lifestyles of the children and adolescents are going in a very, very bad shape. They are passing through a very stressful environment. They had a lot of burden of their studies. They are very, very short tempers. Anger is on very high mode. And most important thing, due to this COVID or some unfortunate things, physical activity is come down to almost zero. I have seen many families where the physical activities of children and adolescents has come down to almost zero or nil. Either it may be due to the COVID or because of this sedentary lifestyle or some family environment in these circumstances. So these physical inactivities and mental and emotional stress due to the studies or family environment that itself is a precipitating factor for forthcoming cardiac illness. Because if there is any family history of cardiac illness, suppose in any family members, your grandfather, grandmother, even father, mother, those who have any family history of any cardiac illness, anginal pain or higher serum lipid profile levels, so these genes used to go transmitted in the child also. So these inbuilt genes plus these physical inactivities and emotional stress, they used to precipitate the cardiac illness. So my message to you all the students are the COVID all is already is most seems to be over. So you should start doing physical activities. You should daily do 25 minutes morning and 25 minutes in evening brisk physical activities, yoga, pranayam, meditations. This is very, very, it has been proven in all the scientific literatures like these are yoga, pranayam, meditation and physical activities. From these you can prevent your cardiac illness.
Thank you so much, sir. That is a really valuable advice.
So, sir, my question is that students have indulged themselves into electronic gadgets. They don't even listen to their parents, and when the exams approach, they are not able to perform according to their caliber. So, sir, and when the results are announced, they think of taking the extreme steps. So, what suggestions you would give to come over this situation, sir?
See, the advent and development of electronic media is a double-edged sword. The benefit of electronic media is information is available at the fingertips. In these days, in the modern world, information is king. The person who has maximum information is having an added advantage over others. At the same time, if information media or social media or internet is used as an addiction instead of a means of information, it is dangerous. It has been proved, and recent studies have shown that persistent use of digital media reduces the memory power, produces irritability. Children become irritable, they become aggressive, not only due to the electronic media, the flickering of lights, but secondly, due to the media content also which they see. So my suggestion is the media should be used only for information, very minimally for entertainment. One should read physical books, be in physical contact, be in touch with the world of reality. Always remember, except the data, everything else is virtual in the electronic world. And being in touch with the reality will always help you face your challenges better. So electronics and electronic media, if used sensibly, will benefit us in the future. If not used properly, can produce harmful effects on the body and in the future generations.
It was a wonderful advice, sir. Thank you.
So, as you mentioned in your previous answer, that during this pandemic, everyone has gained extra weight, which is leading to obesity, which further leads to heart disorders. So, how does obesity affect our heart? Is there any particular kind of workout that one should follow so that we can keep our heart healthy?
First of all, the how you know whether one person is obese or not. So, for scientific reason and for our doctor's purpose, there are by two ways you can say this person is underweight, normal weight, or obese. One is the body mass index, that is known as BMI. So, it is basically your body weight divided by height square in meters. So, that comes to be your BMI. The normal BMI in adults is less than 18.5. 18.5 is, if it is less than 18.5, the person is known as underweight. And it is, if it is in between 18.5 to 24.9, then the person is known, called as a normal weight. And in between 25 to 19, has been called as a overweight person. And if it is more than 13, you can tell it is a grossly obese person. The another thing is waist hip ratio. We calculate the waist circumference and hip circumference, and accordingly we can say if waist hip ratio, if it is more than 0.85 or 0.9, then we can say the person is obese. Obesity affects each and every organs of the our body. First, most important organ is our cardiac vessels or coronary artery disease. It directly as well as indirectly affects our hearts. It causes atherosclerosis, coronary artery disease. It precipitates the diabetes, who has the genes of diabetes, or those who are in pre-diabetic state. So that can lead to your diabetes, that can lead to increase in the blood pressure, or that can promote you for future for development for the blood pressure. Obesity can cause you the problems of respiratory systems. It can cause sleep apnea. You may find difficulty in breathing. Obese persons are more prone for development of osteoarthritis and early osteoporosis. Osteoporosis people have more common gallbladder stones. They have difficulty in digestion. They have fatiguability. They have insomnia. They used to suffer from depression sort of things. So obesity used to affect each and every organs of the body. So this is the right time that you all students or adolescents or pediatric age group, you should be very, very careful to your obesity. You should even check how obese you are by the formula I have already told you. And you should keep a close watch on your body weight. Avoid eating this fried things, fats and oils in additional amounts. Do vigorous exercise morning, as previously I told, 20 minutes morning and 20 minutes evening. So by these maneuver, you can prevent the obesity.
Okay, so we'll definitely keep that in mind.
So my grandmother used to share with me about herself when she used to go to school. So sir, she tells me that she never has experienced stress, but nowadays it is commonly seen in every child. So sir, what are the reasons and how should we overcome it?
In fact, I remember my own school days and my college days when studying used to be fun. In fact, nothing much has changed. Only that various other things like social media, etc., have been added. We never feel stressed out when we play games, or we never feel stressed out when we go to a restaurant to eat food, or we never get stressed out when we are on the social media or playing video games. Then why should we be stressed out during studies? So the important thing is, if you allot time for everything, if you allot time for your studies, if you allot time for your games, if you allot time for your relaxation, there should be no problem. All the problem starts when you start overlapping. When it's time for studies, you're playing. When it's time for games, you're studying. When it's time for your food, you're playing video games or you're studying. So if you allot yourself a fixed time every day, and that's what we all used to do when we were all small, when we were in school and college, we did not have much entertainment. There were only games, and there was it news on TV from Doordarshan. There was All India Radio, occasional movie in the theaters, and the rest of the time was spent studying. You should accept that education is also a very important part of our lives, just as we accept the fact that entertainment or games are a part of life. Study should never be seen as a challenge. Study should always be as seen as a mode for further development and for enriching our knowledge. The moment everybody, all students accept the fact that studies are not a enemy, they are a friend, and they are for enriching the knowledge, and it will help us, increase our contacts and increase our knowledge, then studies would be less stressful. So I'd advise them, accept your studies the same way that you accept your video games or your movies or your eating at restaurants, talking and meeting friends, and studies will be your own friend.
Yes, sir. We need a new timetable. Thank you, sir.
Sir, we are aware that sudden chest pain or breathlessness is one of the common symptoms of heart attack or any heart disorder. So, in case of an emergency, if a person experiences sudden chest pain or feels like he or she is about to faint or is having breathlessness, what first aid should be given? As in, by the time we take the patient to the hospital, what are the steps that we can take?
Very good question. The most important thing, first of all, you should identify earliest the cardiac signs and symptoms. Some of the times in diabetic patient, even we also used to miss the typical signs and symptoms. The commonest cardiac sign is retrosternal left-sided chest pain radiating to left arm and hand. And that chest pain used to persist only for second to minutes. Like this is the typical cardiac chest pain. We used to call this as a anginal chain pain, anginal chest pain. Pain start on your left side of the chest, and this pain radiate to your left arm, left shoulder, or left finger. And this pain doesn't persist for a long, because usually other types of the pain like muscular pain, acidic pain, these types of the pain used to persist for a longer period. But this cardiac pain, anginal pain, it doesn't persist long. It usually persists only for a few seconds or like 1 and 2 minutes maximum. But in some patients who are having diabetic and hypertensive or other illness, the typical chest pain or anginal pain doesn't comes to the notice. Sometimes it may radiate to your jaws, sometimes it may radiate to your shoulder. The other more commonest symptoms of anginal or cardiac illness is breathlessness. We have noticed that patients suddenly started feeling some suffocation or some breathing issues. So that may be a minor clue that he might be having some anginal pain or some cardiac illness. So early identifications by cardiac symptoms is must. Whenever you find any person who is having suppose any history of diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, family history, obesity, or any other history that can precipitate the cardiac illness, and you find there is something going wrong, the typical anginal chest pain is going on, you should immediately first try to, if possible, cardiogram is the ideal thing to get the diagnosis done. But if it is not possible, there are a few medicines like immediately, if it is at home, you can give him some EcoSprint tablet. These are antithrombotic, antiplatelet medicine. So in emergency, you can give him this EcoSprint tablet. some anti-anginal medicines, sorbitrate, to relieve the pain, they are also should be kept at each, even in your school also, in playground also, or nearby facility. Even I would suggest at home you should also at least these two medicines, ecosprin and sorbitrate, should be at least these two medicines should be your at home all the time. So at emergency, you can give these ecosprints and sorbitrate medicine. And another thing, most important thing is like whether when if the patient started doing some fainting or he developed frothing from the mouth. So that is the most important part, because at that time there are many chances he may aspirate the fluid. So you have to immediately turn his neck on one side, and you should try, he or she should not aspirate the whatsoever the froth coming from the mouth. And one another thing is, suppose you feel it is going to be on fainting side, pulse and blood pressure are going down, then there is one method, it's a CPR. So that can be you can give with brisk your palm, you can give thumb pressing repeatedly forcibly, and immediately try to shift to the hospital. But the most important thing is you should identify earliest the cardiac sign and symptoms. That is the most important thing, and they should not be ignored. Like, never, if you anywhere, anytime, and even if you are on your school's playground, on roadside, you find that these symptoms may be suggestive of cardiac illness, first try to save his life, ask the ambulance, or try to shift over to the nearby hospital.
Sure, sir. We all should keep the medicines prescribed at you at our home, and we now are aware that what are we supposed to do in case of an emergency like this. Thank you, sir.
So this is my personal experience that after using mobile internet, the development of human brain has slowed down. Every answer is available, so our brain doesn't need to work. So I am concerned about that if this scenario goes on, what would happen to the future generation? So sir, can you elaborate this answer?
Yes. First, I would appreciate what Dr. Garg has given guidelines as to how to manage the critical patient. See, not everywhere doctors or nurses or paramedics will be available. And many times, you people, youngsters, will have to face a situation where a colleague or somebody who is a relative or somebody you see on the road will need acute care. And there is something known as the basic life sciences. And I think all the elder students, the older students of every school should be taught basic life sciences, because every person's contribution to saving a life is important. Every life is important. And previously in Western countries, still it is a norm. Nowadays in India, awareness of BLS and ALS has come. So let us find out if there is some way by which you children, especially the children in older classes, can be taught the basics, the warning signs, what all to look for, how to evaluate, so that every life you save will make you feel proud and will add some credit to the state city. The second thing, what you are saying is, as I was saying before, the use of electronic media. So you should remember that memory comes due to repeating the same thing again and again. When we read from books, we read it twice or thrice or four times and then we remember it. That is exercise to the brain. The major disadvantage of electronic media is you don't have to remember anything. If you have a doubt, go to Google. If you forget it, again go to Google. So there is no use, or there is no need for, or there is no indication for retention of memory when you use electronic media. That has found to be a major cause for lack of memory or not remembering things in the present generation, also in people who use excessively electronic media for gathering information. Always remember that still the printed media, that is paper books or electronic books, are the best method of exercising your brain, doing calculations, doing puzzles, playing games which have effect on the brain or increasing the memory power like chess, etc., are very useful. So I would suggest you refer to your electronic media for getting information at short notice, but do stick to the traditional methods of memory retention, like reading books and writing down things. That would help the present generation a lot.
Yes, sir. That was a very true advice given by you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I wanted to share something with you. My grandfather, he walks for about 5 kilometers every day. He does not eat any kind of junk food and is nearly as fit as all the youngsters. He told me stories about people being really healthy and fit during those times. There were near to no heart diseases during that time. So there has been a tremendous achievement in science and technology since then, but still the number of cases is not dropping. Instead, it is increasing rapidly. As we know, a coin has two faces. So, what is the major reason that even after having such advanced technology and other healthcare facilities also, the number of heart patients in today's time is increasing continuously?
Okay, very good question. Let me go in detail of this question. There are three major illness that we are facing all over the world, not only the India. One is diabetes, another is blood pressure, and third is coronary artery disease. So first of all, we should understand like why these three diseases occur. So there are two things. One is modifiable factor and another is the non-modifiable factor. For precipitating or development of these disease, there are two factors. One is the modifiable factor and another is the non-modifiable factor. The non-modifiable factors are your genes, because you cannot modify these factors. You cannot, because these are your genes. You cannot modify them, because in diabetic also, for blood pressure also, for this cholesterol as well as this coronary artery disease, there are some genes which comes to your from family from your parents, grandparents, grandparents, grandparents. So this typical history or typical source genes you cannot trace out. Many times we have seen the patient who comes with cardiac illness, and if we ask them, they say no father is having any, none of the father, none of the grandfather having any cardiac illness. But that might be not true. There might be some family history of grandfather, and that time the science was not so advanced, so exactly we cannot record the history. So the first most important non-modifiable factor is your genes. Second is your age. It has been proven like age itself is a risk factor for cardiac illness. And sex, it has been also proved like male persons are more susceptible for this coronary artery disease. Now coming to the non-modifiable illness, these are the factors which are in your hand. You can modify these factors. So the most important thing is most important is your smoking. Tobacco, alcohol, and smoking. These three risks. These three are very important risk factor for developments of both diabetes, blood pressure, as well as coronary artery disease in long term. And these can be modified if they stop smoking. It can be preventable. The another most important thing is your lifestyle and behavior. Suppose you are having a sedentary lifestyle, you are not working out, you are not doing regular exercise, you are very obese. So that is also a precursor for development of coronary artery disease. The third most important thing is obesity, as well as your physical inactivity and your mental stress. This is a very important risk factor for the development of the coronary artery disease, because it has been proven that mental stress, physical stress, that itself is a precursor for development of diabetes, blood pressure, and coronary artery disease. So tobacco, alcohol, smoking, as well as your physical inactivities, your obesity, your physical and mental stress, these all are modifiable risk factor. Like you can modify these risk factor with your lifestyle changes, your behavior changes, with your all this culprit of tobacco, alcohol, smoking. So these all are in your hand. Though you might be having your hidden genes for development of diabetes, blood pressure, and coronary artery disease, but if you are having any of these modifiable risk factor, please try to remove these modifiable risk factor earliest as possible, because we have seen in clinical practice also, the person who used to smoke even 5 to 7 or 10 cigarette per day over period of time of even 5 to 10 years, he is very, very prone for development of coronary artery disease at very, very early age, even at the age of 28 or 30 years. So you should always remember these modifiable risk factor. So try to modify these risk factor because these are in your hand. You can modify these risk factor. Genes is not in your hand.
Yes, sir. Sir, also I had another question. You mentioned in your answer that men are more prone to heart diseases. So what is the reason for that?
There is no specific reason, but sometimes it is the hormones. It has been many in studies. It has been find out that females, because of their hormones, they are relatively more protected from the coronary artery disease. That is the only reason, because of the females having this estrogen and progesterone hormonal surge regularly, and that can be a factor to prevent them from coronary artery disease. But this is not a rule of thumb. It has been studied over last few years, and it has been found that male sex are more prone for coronary artery disease.
Okay, sir. Sir, I was also wondering that maybe stress is another important factor for this, that men are more prone to heart diseases. Sir, very well said, sir, about the lifestyle because what I have experienced till date that maximum number of disorders occur due to the change in lifestyle or an unhealthy lifestyle, which are created due to the environment. So this is an eye opener for all of us, sir. Thank you.
On the behalf of Anandiketan, I would like to tell if parents and students have any queries, they can send them in the chat box.
इस नंबर पे फोन मिला बार बार फोन आ रहा है आ गए सर ना देखो 9:30 के बाद
Sir, by the time the parents are writing their questions in the chat box, I am sure that everyone would be eager to hear about your most challenging case. Even at the time when you were really stressed and were under a lot of pressure, how did you deal with the situation?
Well, I practice neurosurgery, which is a very stressful branch. I would not say that other branches are less stressful. I basically specialize in awake surgeries and keyhole surgeries. So, if talking about awake surgeries, you must have seen the videos and seen the news. That patient was reciting slokas and he was getting operated, and patient was playing the violin, or patient was playing the flute and he was getting operated. And 2 years back, at the hospital where I work, we decided to operate on one patient in the awake condition. To do brain surgery in awake condition was something which I never thought I'd be doing. And we need the whole thing. It's like an orchestra. I am the only one of the musicians who plays one musical instrument. It is my anesthetist, my operation theater team, my other staff in the operation theater, my equipment persons who take care of my equipment, my assistants. So we never thought that we could get away with it. We thought there would be problems. It did take a long time, but we successfully could do the surgery. The patient was awake. He was talking to us. He was following us. The surgery went off successfully, and we could successfully do three more surgeries after that, on awake patients. So technically, I feel that doing awake surgeries is one of the most difficult because level of understanding. There are different languages spoken in Western countries. There is only one language spoken. It's basically English or any other one language. In our country, especially where we work, we deal with patients who speak multiple languages. The level of awareness of the disease and why we are doing things is not so much. Yet, to overcome all these things and to successfully do a surgery and give the best results is probably the most satisfying thing in my life.
This was truly inspiring, sir. Thank you.
So experience is the greatest teacher. So according to you, Which was the most challenging case you cured, and what were the obstacles that you faced in it, sir?
Okay, as previously I already discussed, 3 months back on Sunday, 3 or 4 months back, when the COVID was on high peak, at the Sunday around 12 noon, I got a call from one of the my patient's son, and he was asking like, father is not breathing well, and he already had a history of COVID. Usually on Sunday, I used to avoid in going visit most of the time because it's Sunday, and I used to avoid to go to home visit because I don't have any much infra things with me to carry on. But I immediately thought I should go. When I reached his home, I found him is in gasping condition. No? Like his blood pressure is going down, pulse not palpable, and suddenly I realized that he is going to die within 1 and 2 minutes. No? That was my perception. No? Calling that ambulance at that time, it's a difficult task because calling ambulance and Sunday, I was knowing it will take around 25 to 30 minutes or at least 20 minutes for ambulance to come. So what I do, I started doing CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, at his home also. And unfortunately they were living on first upper level of flats, na? And lift was not working, na? So it was a very very difficult situation how to save his life, na? But and he had just cleared from COVID, na? So what I did, I started doing a massive hump CPR to his this chest wall, na? And started doing mouth breathing, na? So that he can able to breathe. But the problem is how to shift to him to the hospital, na? That was the biggest challenge, na? So immediately I have decided, I have my Honda City car and I was driving alone. So immediately I have decided the only way is I can shift in my own car and let us take a chance. So I asked all relative, and though he was obese, to pull him, and I was going continuing this CPR, and they all pull him and push, literally push him on my back seat of car. And immediately I asked his son, who is sitting beside it on the back seat, to continue that CPR. And I rush my car. I drive my car on, and I rush car around the speed I don't remember. And I already called at Sterling Hospital all the people to come at the gate to receive him. And luckily, as Sunday there was less traffic, and I go with all service, all traffic, and I I was asking his son to chant to Om and Ram Ram so that we can at least reach the hospital. And within 4 to 5 minutes, we reached the hospital. Outside the hospital, all their staff, people, even anesthetist doctor was ready. Immediately, he has been shifted to ICU, oxygen, and all things were given. And by God grace, is all the he is having massive cardio. He was in massive cardiogenic shock and acute myocardial infarction, and he has been saved today. Like he is enjoying his life. So like this was a very very, because at that time, if you are having not much source with you, so it's difficult to manage that position. But luckily, as I have already told, this mouth breathing CPR, that was a very, very helpful, and he got a new life.
So, my thank you, sir.
So
Sir, what suggestions you would give to the young generation who have planned to opt for medical field as their career? What are the pros and cons of getting into this field?
I think Dr. Garg would be the right person to answer this question. Being a physician, he sees much more tougher than us.
Can you repeat your question? Sorry, I missed.
Yes, sure. Sure. Sir, what suggestions would you give to the young generation who have planned to opt medical field as their career? I was concerned about the pros and cons of getting into this field. Could you please brief about it?
That is the most difficult question to answer. Uh, I had one son and daughter, and we have decided both our son and daughter not to send to medical. Na? My elder son got admission in VIT in computer science Vellore, and daughter, she has also taken this engineering. Na? Like she has recently passed 10th class and she came in 11th. But she also has taken this max. Na? So both my kids are going to be a non-medical personnel. See, there are a lot of pros and cons. So it's basically what I think. So don't force your children to one some specific branch. That is the only thing. Let them decide. Let them decide. Because though my wife is also gynec cancer surgeon, both of us are having good practice, having our own hospitals. But we have never ever forced our children to choose the branch. Like it is their decision and they have decided their branch. So for parents who are sitting here, I again advise them, let the child to decide their future. Don't pursue them because I have also seen our neighbors and many parents, their children want to take this humanitarians, some persons, parents, children want to take this commerce branch, because although their parents both are doctor or some engineer or some, so never ever you push your child for some specific branch. There are few pros and cons in all the field, but ultimately it is your hard work that pays you. It is only your hard work. There is no system of luck in this thing. There is nothing there is nothing like luck in this age group. Luck comes after age of 40, 50. So it is the only the hard work that matters your destiny. So what I want to say, each and every branch has some pros and cons. Medical, definitely there are some long waiting period. You have to go with lot of struggles. Your family life goes on disturbing. Emergency branches are always there. You have to always on toes. There are expectations from each and every person of the society. Many a times you cannot fulfill each and every person's expectations. So there are pros are also there is medical. You got an reputation in the society. You feel satisfaction. You have saved the life of the people you are serving for the societies. So there are pros and cons for each and every branch. But still, I want to say it is the hard work that pays you off. Sir, I think you can also comment for this. No?
Yeah, I totally agree, sir. I mean, it should be left to the children to decide.
Yes.
In that
Yes.
context, I would like to say that
Thank you,
children
sir.
need counseling these days.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
we are having short of time and parents have queries.
Please, please.
So, sir, Vrisha is having a query that as we know that the stress can be a root cause of several diseases. How can one know that he is under stress? Any early symptoms?
Dr. Garg, I think you would be the right person to tell that. I'm a surgeon.
See, please, whether you are in stress or non-stress, you even in self can found you are in stress, no? Like not the other person you can found. See, and the other things, there are multiple signs. There are loss of appetite. You are not fatigability, tiredness, insomnia. You are not able to sleep. Sometimes this abdominal symptoms. Diarrhea, most of the time irritable bowel syndromes, you got diarrhea, you got fatigue, you got some persistent headache, ear pains, nausea sort of feeling, tiredness, lassitude. So these are the some of the symptoms of this might be you are having under sleep disturbance most of the time. So these are maybe few symptoms of stress.
In fact, the Delhi government has started counseling in schools for children from 9, 10, 11, 12. After the COVID pandemic, there has been a lot of stress amongst children and parents and a lot of social disturbances. So I think we should also follow that system. There should be counseling for children because there are various social issues plus academic issues due to which they are under a lot of stress. So children need counseling at regular intervals to ensure they accept their limitations, they face their challenges, and do not do any untoward activity. Counseling is a very important part. We should start that soon for all the children in school itself. Catch them young. That is the catchphrase.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So the next question is for Dr. Ganpati. So Aryan asks, we live in a world full of uncertainties. Uncertainty has increased many-fold after this pandemic. Even people who follow strict healthy diet and lifestyle get cardiac arrest. In this scenario, I have seen people not taking their life seriously but giving more importance to enjoy their life with friends and family as much as possible. How to bring them back to track?
Uh, See, what I would say is illness is there from the centuries. Ever since we evolved, we have been victims of illness. Only that we have been made more aware of it, more so in the last 2 years due to the advent of social media and transmission of information through social media. Yes, there are two aspects. One is stick to a very strict regime, and second is enjoy life with your family and your friends. I would say that you draw a balance between both of them. You stick to what you are doing, be very particular about it, and take out time to enjoy with your friends and families. If you keep on enjoying with your friends and families, I'm sure that you will get bored of it sooner or later. So always strike a balance between work and your other activities, and you will enjoy every aspect of it. I think the persons who say that it is fate and eventually something is going to happen to us, yes, something is going to happen to us, but our responsibilities will also have to be fulfilled. Those who feel like that probably I feel would not have given adequate time to their family in the past. But what I feel is if everybody divides their time sensibly as to work related and social related, then they would never have this problem.
That was a really valuable advice, sir.
So, sir, my question is to Dr. Ganpati.
Yeah.
Sir, generally kids they prefer fast foods, and parents they are arguing for regular traditional foods. So, sir, how can we fill the gaps? And what is the best food? This question is asked from by Kashish, sir.
Yeah. See, one thing you should remember our food is our culture, and what junk food we are eating is all Western culture. There is no fast food which is harmful in Indian culture. All the harmful foods are the burgers, the pizzas, the pastas, and the French fries. However, just as we have accepted technology and we are evolving, we will have to accept junk food because it is a part of the Western culture. If you travel abroad, yes, you will get our Indian food, but there would be times when you don't get Indian food, when you have to accept the food which is served there. My suggestion is have Western food in moderation. Give respect to what our food, our culture, and our values are. Take Western food or junk food once in a week. I know Dr. Garg would not agree with me, but what I feel is everything in moderation is safe. Everything in excess is always harmful. Junk food in moderation, if you have it once in a week or 10 days, I'm sure will not produce any harm. Indian food is the best. Indian food is good for our cultures. It's made with our body structure, our climate, and our features in mind. Our Indian food has evolved with the times. It is always the best. But many times junk food is the only option which we have. Like when we are traveling, we may not get any other food other than junk food. So have it in moderation. Try to avoid it as much as possible when giving a party or something. If friends insist, yes, but don't make it a regular feature. Stick to our Indian food.
One thing,
Yes, sir.
just I want to add some Hindu quote na, for this, what Sir has told. For this will cover all things, na, diet or for all cardiac illness. Like the sutra is कि आप अस्त रहो व्यस्त रहो like the person should remain ast raho, vyast raho, but ast vyast mat raho. मतलब आप अस्त रहो, मतलब लाइफ को एंजॉय करो, व्यस्त रहो मीन्स बिजी रहो, बट अस्त व्यस्त मत रहो, मतलब यू शुड लिव इन अ डिसिप्लिन लाइफ. सो आप अस्त रहो, व्यस्त रहो, अस्त व्यस्त मत रहो. So I think that will cover each and every aspect of our lecture, no?
Correct. Very much true, sir. Very much true.
Yes, sir, definitely. Sir, the next question is by Garvit. He says that I am suffering very low blood pressure since blood pressure problem since 2 years. Energy level also low. What can I do?
Blood pressure since, and what is the age? What is the age? See, the issue is, first of the thing is, if you are has been diagnosed with blood pressure, don't forget about the illness. You love your disease. Don't do any anger or frustration with the disease, because if you go to the doctor, suppose what I suggest to my patients, if a patient with fever comes to me, and I used to check each and every person blood pressure. He came to me with the symptoms of the fever, but incidentally he has been diagnosed as a suffering from the blood pressure. Many of the times patients used to say, no, we are not having blood pressure. No, your machine might be wrong. How can it comes? But I used to told to each and every of my patient, you should feel lucky because you came to my clinic as a symptoms of fever. But being a senior physician, it's my duty to check blood pressure of each and every patient. So I have checked your blood pressure and it is coming up. So you might be suffering from the hypertension. So do regular check your blood pressure and take it in a positive manner. You should feel lucky you came to the doctor as a symptoms for the fever, but ultimately you have been diagnosed for the blood pressure. So at that time you can start doing your lifestyle modification, though it might not be necessary to start the medicine at the very early stage. Initially also, if it is not blood pressure is not a very serious one or on a very high level, we give at least 2 to 3 months trial with diet and exercise and this meditation therapy. For let us wait and watch for few months if it can be modified by its own. Otherwise, we used to start the medicine. But once the medicine for the blood pressure or hypertension has been started, they should be continued as a lifelong medicine. Na? No one should stop any medicine at any period of the time or any day, because we are living in a so much of stressful life now. If you will stop the medicine once it has been started, then whenever any stress will come, the blood pressure will shoot up and some unfortunate events like some cardiac illness or brain hemorrhage or any other like unfortunate events may come at that moment. So once you have been prescribed medicine by your doctor, so you should continue. And the most other important thing, you should regularly, at least once a year, you should check your body checkup. You should completely check your body. The body checkup include your sugar profile, your CBC, your liver function test, your kidney function test, your thyroid function test. The basic is ECG, that is electrocardiogram, and 2D cardiography. So these are the basic investigation for any person of the age of 35 years. They should at least once a year, they should go preliminary this health checkup, preventive health checkup. That is the must. The difference between our country and developed country is we believe in treatment part. We think let the disease come, we will see later on. And in the developed country, they are their vision is no, there is no need to come to the disease. We will prevent it only in stage 1. In our country, when cancer comes in the stage 4, we used to go to Bombay and America and everywhere. But we doesn't believe in going with this preventive cancer checkup periodically. If we find out the cancer at very early stage, even at the stage 1, like it can be cured. But the concept unfortunately, we are very lacking in this concept of preventive health checkup. So by this, with your information, I want to tell each and every parents, please go ahead, at least once a year periodic checkup, even if you are of 35 year age, or even if you are having any family history of cardiac, diabetic or heart illness, please go earliest at least once a year your all health checkup, so you can prevent your upcoming illness.
That was really helpful, sir. Sir, you mentioned in your answer that the difference between India and the other developed countries. Sir, do you think that India is equipped enough to treat for the treatment of the people, because the number of cases of heart disorders or anything it's
Yeah,
increasing?
we are even much more advanced. No? You see, it's India is becoming a medical hub or medical tourist, no? Because doctors are very competitive here, and the most important thing, it's very cost effective. You cannot imagine the difference between cost of simple cataract surgery or minor surgery or neurosurgery or even knee replacement surgery. There is huge difference between the cost in developed country, and with this same treatment, like a competitive doctor, good healthcare facility, everything is available here, na? But the only thing lacking in our country, that is the preventive aspect of the illness, na?
I would like to give an example. I had a friend who came from the United States and wanted to get an MRI done. And we asked him that why you want an MRI done. And he said, "Sir, if you want an MRI without any problem, just for checkup, you will have to pay outside the insurance. If you pay, you have to pay $5,000 for an MRI. That's about 3.5 lakhs for an MRI. And in India, you can get a good quality MRI in a modern machine for 3,500 rupees. India is a unique model in healthcare. There are many critics, but cheap and easily accessible healthcare is a luxury, and many Indians don't know the value of this. If you go to a Western country, I have a consultant whose son is in the UK. The National Health Service in UK does not cover eye checkup or dental services. If you go if you go to UK and if you get an eye checkup done, it's £200. It's 14,000 rupees. So India is a cheap, good quality, and easily accessible. Even the poorest can get the best of treatment at government hospitals or trust hospitals with all the modern equipment. We are lucky to be in a place like India.
I think any other questions can be put up to me and sir on WhatsApp now.
Yes, I think
Like
so.
that will be good. Na? You can share our mobile numbers to the parents, and in free time we can answer to them. I think,
Yes, definitely, sir.
yeah.
Definitely. So, lots of queries were resolved by this healthy discussion. I am thankful to both the panel of doctors, Dr. Ganpati and Dr. Praveen Garg, along with all the members of the ANBC family. So, thank you for taking out time and being here with us today.
Thank
All
you.
the
Thank
best.
you. We wish you all students a very bright future. And
Yes.
any doubts, any queries, or any worries, please do feel free to let Dr. Garg or me know. We would
Yeah,
be
yeah,
glad
please.
to solve your queries.
Sure, sir.
Please. My pleasure. Thank you
Sure,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you. Good day.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
One, two, three.